What's up, everybody? My name is Jacob Hardison, and today we're going to talk about getting into RC racing. So a question that I'm very commonly asked, whether it be on Facebook, at the track, in a message, whatever it may be, is how do I get into RC racing? Or if I'm in it, what to do to continue your progression throughout your time. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through a couple different phases in this video. First, starting out with the getting into it, and then I'll get more into the driver development end of things. So to start out here, I've got, of course, some kits and some ready to run trucks, or well, just one ready to run truck in front of me. And this is going to be the start of everything. This is going to be the initial jumping in and where to go. So starting out with my Sentin here, this is going to be a 4-wheel drive short course truck, which is ready to run. And I think after you get battery and charger, you're going to be somewhere in the $400 to $500 area. Now, the reason why I have this here is because there's going to be a group of people that you don't know what you want to do necessarily right off the bat. You know that you think you want to get into racing, but maybe you're not positive. But you do know that you want to be able to drive around an RC car. So this is going to be a great way to start out with that because it's 4-wheel drive, it's brushless, so it's got all the power, it's ready to run, everything's already done for you. So if you end up not liking going to the track, then you still have a great car to be able to go out and mess around with in front of the house, backyard, BMX track, whatever it may be that is nearby to you. Now, over here, I'm going to have a couple of kits. This is definitely going to be the more jumping into the deep end of things because I know that there are guys that will come into the shop and they're like, I know I want to do racing. I know that this is definitely something that I'm interested in, and I don't necessarily want to buy a $500 car just to turn around to buy a race car. And now the reason why I say that is because to some extent, you could almost think of this, if you're fairly certain you're getting into racing, as kind of like an insurance policy per se, because obviously if you don't, you have a lot more variability. Whereas definitely if you get into the race kit end of things, you're a lot more locked into it, and it's definitely a lot more expensive. Both of these kits here, the Techno SCT 410 2.0 and the associated B74.2, are going to be a lot more difficult to get into and a lot more of an upfront cost. You know, to get into something like this, you're gonna be somewhere in the $1,000 area, at least on the low end, and you can definitely spend upwards of $1,500 to $2,000 to get these guys fully spec'd out. Now, with the preface of this video being the kind of getting into it sort of things, you definitely don't need to spend a ton of money on super high-end electronics. You don't need a $600 radio or a $1,000 radio to get into it, and you don't need all of these super duper electronics. For example, I'll use the Hobbywing systems. You've got their Easy Run system, which is a more plug and play kind of entry level system, or you've got the Z Run super duper race. You got to solder, do all of your different adjustments to get going. Both of those are going to be really good options. And there's definitely also the mindset of buy once, cry once, or, getting what you just need at the time, of which you definitely don't need the super duper high end of things, but the option is still always there. So with that being said, these guys have the potential to be really expensive. And obviously there's always the back end of you have to do the kit build. So to detail kind of each one of these, we're going to start with the SCT 410 that I got here on top. This is going to be a 4-wheel drive short course truck kit. So very similar to the Sentin in the sense of they're both 4-wheel drive short course trucks, but this is going to, of course, be the race kit end of things. So the reason why I'm going to start with this guy is because I've always kind of been a believer that short course is the better place to start in comparison to some of the other cars. And the reason for that is that you've got the front and rear bumpers, you've got Nerf bars, you've got the enclosed body, and naturally with racing a short course truck, you kind of go into it with the, You kind of go into it expecting that there's going to be that little bit of rubbing during the race. And with the short course truck, because it's all enclosed, you can get away with a little bit more. But the other reason why I like it is because everything is enclosed, you have a little bit more of a durability aspect that goes into it. So you don't have to worry as much about potentially breaking an arm or hurting something on the inside, whatever it might be. So I do like to have that safety. Now, the buggy on the bottom is definitely going to, in comparison, be the better handling car because it's got the big giant rear wing. But with anything kind of in that 10 scale area, you don't have as much of that durability. And I guess I should specify in that 10 scale buggy end of things because the Techno truck is still a 10 scale vehicle. But a 10 scale buggy is definitely not built with the intention of being super durable. It is built with the intention of being a really high-end race car. So, you hit, let's say you take the short course truck, you hit a spike at 10 miles an hour, maybe it bounces off. Whereas maybe with the buggy, you hit that same spike the exact same way, 10 miles an hour. You might be breaking off an arm, bending a pin. Now, obviously, that's a very, very basic general overview of it. There's no real great science to tell you, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen when you hit this in this way. But it's a very real thing. A buggy generally is going to be a little more fragile because it's smaller. It's not built as beefy. It is built to be a well-handling car. Now, obviously, in some cases, depending on where you're located, maybe short course isn't class or vice versa. Maybe buggy isn't a class. So that will play a little bit of the factor into it. Or if you're, thinking about surfaces, definitely, from a carpet end of things, a buggy is going to be the better way to go. But nonetheless, I still like the short course end of things. I think it's going to be the best entry-level intro vehicle to kind of learn the ropes and get on track. So now that we've discussed the getting into it and things, let's talk about the actual, you're at the track driving. So to start out, I kind of like to look at, and I'm going to use another very general thing to get into it, which is going to be a 3-year program. That's kind of how it was described to me, and that's how my dad and I went into it. The first year kind of being you're learning the ropes. Second year, you're going to start doing the competing end of things. And the third year, all right, now you're going to actually start competing for wins. You're going to be in that higher local, regional level, maybe not quite the national level, but you're going to be relatively quick. Now, the reason why I say that's a very general, broad area to look at is because there's going to be people that are going to progress to that level in 6 months, and there's going to be people that it takes 6 years to get to that level. Every single person is different, whether it be, a 5-year-old kid or a 60-year-old man or woman, whoever you are. It doesn't matter. Everybody's going to be different. The 5-year-old kid could progress super fast. The 60-year-old could progress super fast. You don't know. So it's going to be very driver to driver. And the other thing I want to preface with that is, let's say you go into it with a buddy and the buddy progresses faster than you. Don't worry about that. Focus definitely super on yourself. If you look at everybody else, you can start to get very frustrated and start to question, well, why am I not progressing as quick? So that's why I want to start out with every single person is different. You don't know. But let's go ahead and start detailing the first year. So the first year where you're going to be learning that kind of driving around the track, driving consistently, that is going to be the time where you're going to use maybe a lower power setting, a lower speed setting on your servo. You want to mostly spend your time just getting around the track. And that means, not driving out balls to the wall, maybe not jumping all the jumps on the track. Your goal is to get around the track with the least amount of mistakes because you don't want to be marshaled. If you have to worry about a marshal, that is another variable. You don't know what kind of marshal you're going to get. He might be on his phone. They might be slow. They might be fast. You don't know. They might just simply not care about your race. So you want to be able to take that variable out very quickly. So it's good to have the discipline of not wrecking. The other reason that works out is because, let's say it's a practice day, the walk of shame is the absolute worst thing in the world to do. I hate walking off the driver's stand to flip over my car, so I spend a lot of time doing my best to make sure that I don't have to worry about that because it sucks. So definitely, you want to build consistency. Don't worry about going super fast. Just have the right tire, have the general right, oil packages, but mostly focus on getting around the track. And now, since I touched on the oil packages end of things, which goes into setup, in that first year, do not worry about setup at all. It is not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. Because it's your very first time going to the track, you could have the greatest setup in the entire world. You're just going to suck. And that's just the nature of it. Anytime you start out with anything new, you're not going to jump into it and go super duper fast straight off the rip. So it's important also to make sure that setup wise, just have the right oils, maybe according to the temperature, wherever track you're at, find a local guide, just get the very baseline setup, something very neutral, not aggressive, just something that you can focus on your driving and not the car. So you can, again, build that consistency up. And then as you get better and better, you can start turning the speeds up on the servo or turning the throttle percentage up so you get more power. But that is your first year. Learn how to drive. Second year, where you're going to be starting to compete a little bit more, but you're not at that super high level and stuff like that, then, you can start doing the more shock oil change end of things, the more diff oil end of things to make the car handle differently around the track, and change, maybe the occasional camber link, but again, keeping it on the very minor end of things. Don't get super crazy in the setup because you're just looking for that little bit of extra, but not so much to where you're getting lost in it. It's very, very easy to get lost in setup. So it's good to keep yourself focused, just have a good base setup with, a couple changes you can make depending on track to track to get you, a little bit better handling of a car, but still focusing on driving your race. But now you can, start learning maybe a little bit more of the race end of things as well, in the sense of, how to race another car on track. Being on your track by yourself and being on track with other people, two very different things. In this second year, you're going to also learn how to get some patience. Maybe you are a little bit faster than the guy ahead, but it's important to not just push the issue, because if you hit him or he does something sporadic, it could ruin both your race and their race. So patience is going to be another good thing, and learning how to drive around other cars. I don't mean around as in like you're weaving in and out of them, but driving with other people on the track. Now, as you get into that third year, then you can start worrying about truly racing and competing with other people, doing different moves, maybe setting up a pass, whether it be, some sort of switchback, whatever. And also in this third year, all right, now we can start playing around maybe a little bit more with spring rate end of things, pistons, doing more anti-squat, toe, camber link positions, shock positions. Now is the time that you've developed all of your skills generally to where you know the ropes, you can get around the track, you can be consistent. Now you're looking for that little bit of extra edge. You're switching tire treads, tire compound. You're trying to get closer to that maximum point of the car. Now with anything, it's going to be an exponential curve, and as you get closer and closer to that maximum, the improvements will be teenier and teenier. So, year one, maybe you see 5-second increase in lap time. Year two, maybe you see a 2-second increase in lap time. And now year three, you're just gonna start seeing, tenths of a second, which at that level, once you get to the higher and higher point, tenths are very, very important. So this is where you're going to, again, start to maximize the car, maximize pace, and maximize what driving you can do. Now, that's not to say also that once you get to this end of the third year, the 6th month, whatever it is for you personally, that's not to say that that's it, that's as fast as you're getting. You will continue to improve more and more, but it's important to build the development stuff up front. That way you know the fundamentals before you jump into the ultra deep end of the racing end of things. I see it all the time. People get way too caught up in little detail stuff, and in the grand scheme of things, it just doesn't matter. There's stuff that I've had people get into that won't matter until you're at the level of Lee Setzer, for example, Ryan Mayfield, where you're looking for, again, those tenths, those hundredths. So stick with the more general stuff, learn the ropes, learn the track, learn how to race. Then once you get further and further, then you can start worrying about that stuff. But if you look at it kind of in that, again, just the 3-year program as the general idea, it gives you goals to be able to hit. That way you don't get super duper frustrated. You're continuing to have fun and you're continuing to improve and have a great time at the track. the number one thing that you want to have is fun. If you're not having fun doing this, then what exactly is the point? The whole reason we get into this hobby is to have fun. So this kind of lays out a little bit of groundwork, but also still allows you to go out, have fun with your buddies, have a great time, and enjoy your time at the track. 99% of us aren't getting paid. We're talking the top 20, 40 guys that are getting, paychecks. When you get there, all right, then it's work, it's a job. Focus on doing your racing. But until you get there, have fun. And like I said, that's the most important thing to me. It always is unfortunate when I see people get super duper invested into the hobby and they take it way, way, way too serious. It's laid back, have fun with your guys. If you're of age, maybe have a drink, whatever it might be. But that will then cover all of our stuff here today. It covers how to get into it and how to develop through those initial stages. I hope this has been helpful. I know that some of the stuff was a little bit more on the broad general of things, but it's hard to go super duper into detail because everybody's different. So if there's anything specific that you want to know, maybe for yourself, or maybe you're a father or a mother that has, their kid getting into it and you want a little bit more help on, where to go, what to look for, definitely leave in the comment section below. Send us a message on Facebook, send me a message, whatever it might be. I am definitely more than happy to help out, and we'll see you in the next one.